What's going on, everybody? It's Skyhook. For my very first column with the hook, I wanted to bring somebody who has been around this game for just about ever. Sorry. One of my mentors, and somebody who has welcomed me onto the Wake Up Show with like open arms. I hear so many wonderful stories behind the scenes, and I wanted you guys to kind of get an idea of some of the great information that I've been privy to. I'm not going to get too personal because I know better, and because I still have a show to do on Monday. So, but I am going to ask you some questions because honestly, Sway, over the years, we've seen you ask some of the most amazing questions of some of the most amazing artists in notoriety, period. But we never get to find out too much about you. So I wanted to take the time to get to hear a little bit about you because we know you got the answers.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking for the answers. I'm still in search, Skyhook. Okay. I'm still searching.
Okay, all right. All right, so the first question I want to ask you is, what's the one thing about you that nobody knows that you wish to God people know?
Well, somebody knows this, though. King Tech knows. Okay, if King Tech knows, that's not.
We already assume that King Tech knows everything about you.
I'm really competitive, very competitive, very competitive. I grew up in Oakland, and we grew up. I grew up on welfare. I'm youngest of three, and my mother pretty much had to provide for 3 different children. We had a lot of assistance from our grandparents periodically. The Waters, and but growing up in East Oakland, 23rd Ave, which is affectionately called the Murder Dubs or the Rolling 20s or the Twomps or whatever you want to call it. Wow. We didn't have a whole lot to, we got joy from victory, so winning is how we celebrated. And when we came up, and I remember an apartment building we lived on off of East 26th Street in Logan, which is right off of 23rd Ave. I went to Manzanita Elementary School. It was right down the street from it. We used to slap box a lot, so you had to know how to fight. And that's where it all started, the competition, the competitive thing, who's the quickest, who's the fastest, who has the best defense. And my mother put us in, early on when I was 6, 7 years old, put us in AAU track and field, and we ran for a track team called 1980, and it was because the Olympics were in 1980. So, and from that point, some of the meeting kids from all over the city, we used to compete. We used to look at each other's hands and go, well, who got the most veins in their hand? And then we'll flex our hands and see who had the most veins, and we'll say, are you quick? If you're quick, to see, run down 50 yards, and we'll race 50 yards, and I mean, it was just always, we were always competitive. We used to play a lot of basketball in our neighborhoods, and we would go from neighborhood to neighborhood, my brother Terry, my cousin Chuck, myself, and we would play different neighborhoods in basketball. Because we ran track, we were always faster, we used to jump higher, and so we were always competitive. And when you think about hip-hop culture, at the core of it all, is competition, when you think about the battle. And so it was just a natural evolution for me to, when it came to writing raps, to try to be better than the dudes who were in my neighborhood. And then, unbeknownst to me, this before I knew King Tech, he was breakdancing. So, and being a B-boy, that's nothing but competition. Who got the sickest style, and who could do the most power moves, or who top rocks were the best, and or up rocks, or however you call it. But so when we came together, we both, I remember the first day I met King Tech, he was a dude from, at that time he lived in Hayward, and I lived in Oakland, and him and this guy named Gus came to meet me, my cousin Chuck, and Al Skee, who introduced King Tech, and I used to break with Tech. He was from North Oakland. And we used to look at him like, yo, look at this dude, man. Look how he walked, man. He used to walk like, he used to walk so, he was so damn cool with his walk. He was like, yo, he's from Hayward. How hard can he be, And it was just that beat boy energy that we all kind of shared, like, what up, yo, what up? you know, and people thought dudes from Oakland were just savages, and we have savage ways, but we're thinkers, and it was just a natural progression for us to kind of link and we were competitive at everything we did. You know, to this day, if we play basketball at our house, you know, I'm trying to be that #1 shooter. You know, and you know, it's funny. You know, we've had Guru from Gangstar play at our house as we built a studio on the. You've seen how we built a studio on the property, and Guru, and then people would come over to record. We play basketball. I beat Guru at that house. Eminem came and shot around at the house. He came and recorded some stuff with us. We didn't play like one-on-one. M actually got gang. You'd be surprised. You don't know about Eminem, and that dude is competitive too. I mean, we did an interview in Detroit on the football field, and we started kind of out throwing passes, and he's guarding me, and I'm guarding him, and I realized that this dude trying to beat me, you know, and I'm trying to beat him, you know, so we don't even know where to put our competitiveness aside. You know, Chris Brown came to my house early in his career, and we went head up, and I took him down. He may not remember it. He probably deny it, you know, but I'm very mild-mannered in my ways, but at the core of it all, I'm extremely competitive. Now I'm not competitive against people. Now I'm competitive with myself. You know, now I'm competitive for our legacy. You know, I have nothing to prove any longer in these fields, you know, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, whether it's my commitment to hip-hop culture. But I challenge myself and I compete with myself to see how much further I can help push it, to inspire other people to push it as well for the right reasons and in the right direction. So I'm still extremely competitive in that way.
Okay. Good to know. I'm glad I know this. This is information I didn't have that I'm happy that I asked about. Piggybacking off of what you said a little bit about Oakland, we know that you're from out there, and we know how much the West Coast misses you, because I hear about it constantly, and I'm not even on the West Coast. What do you miss the most about the West Coast?
You know, Oakland in particular, just in general, like it's you know,
in general,
it's a really nice, you know, camaraderie on the West Coast. It always has been. Like, to this day, you know, it's like, you know, people on the West Coast really, I find our disposition is different. You're innocent until proven guilty. You know what I mean? It's a difference where in other places you go, you feel like you're guilty until proven innocent, so to speak. You know, when you socializing with different people from what I call tribes or different areas, you know. Okay. On the West Coast, hey, man, what's up, fam? Boom, you good? You good. If your energy is right, cool. The moment your energy turns, you know, we go savage on you. You know what I mean? And so I kind of miss that aspect of it. You know, the West Coast has always been open to different music. And if you tie it in with the business that we're in, we always played music from Atlanta, whether it was Outkast, Texas, whether it was Rap A Lot Records, Underground Kings, or Scarface. New York, we played a lot of artists from New York. Chicago, Common, you know, Twister, whoever. We always been open-minded about music, and the West Coast in general has always been that. West Coast has always had its own indigenous sounds too, coming from where, you know, the funk played a major role in the West Coast sound, Northern and Southern California, and how, you know, when you look back, you trace back the early beginnings of, you know, Dr. Dre, and when he was with the World Class Wrecking Crew, or if you listen to early Too Short, that's Southern California.
Absolutely.
If you listen to Egyptian Lover, you know, they had a heavy funk influence. In Oakland, you know, Too Short, you know, even 40, E40, Rapid Forte, you know, a lot of those guys had early funk influences too. But we always been open to all music and sound. So I miss that about the West Coast, and I also miss the landscape, you know, like Northern California is a beautiful place. You know, I grew up fishing a lot. In Northern California, you can really be attuned and attached to nature. You can go to lakes, you know, beaches, get lost in the mountains. The weather is incredible. You know, same is true of Southern California. I haven't learned those places on the East Coast as well as I would like to, but I miss all of.
Okay, so now, what was the one piece of advice that you were given early on that you still use to this day?
Um, KRS-One came to our house in L.A. when I had an opportunity to work at MTV and had turned it down more than once. And he quoted something and said, I'm going to paraphrase, he said, well, why? He asked, why not? And I said, well, they no longer have Yo MTV Raps. At that time, I'm not into boy band culture. And I really don't know what purpose I could serve there. And then we were hip-hop purists, and it went against the grain of what we felt we were all about at that time. It was just a hard sell, We were doing fairly well for ourselves with the Wake Up Show and doing the Wake Up Show 101 concerts and doing all the merchandising. We had Big Game Hunters, which was a clothing line we had, and another line called Chevrolet. And we had just started this T-shirt line called Tempo. And so between those things and the CDs, the mixtapes, the volume 1s, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7s, and the DVD, we were doing fairly well for ourselves. And and we had a production deal at Interscope. We had just done one with Priority Records. We had done something with, I was in the makings of doing something with Clive Davis. So I just didn't see the purpose. And he asked, you like, well, what is it? I said, well, I feel like they don't tell the whole story when it comes to doing coverage on hip hop any longer now that Yo MTV Raps is there. He said, would you like to see that change? I said, yeah. He said, Sway, by the time you're 18, if you're not a part of an organization or a movement that goes against the establishment, then you have no heart. All right, well, I kind of am with the Wake Up Show. He said, yeah, but by the time you're 25, if you're not a part of that same establishment, then you have no brain. Otherwise, you're throwing pebbles at brick walls. Change comes from within. I was like, wow, for some reason that just resonated so well for me. Next time MTV called, they said, well, would you consider moving to New York? We'll pay for the move, and we'll pay you. I said, I don't even care what you pay me, because I made more money doing other things. Those first few years at MTV, it wasn't about, I never even saw a check from MTV. I just send it straight to the accountant. I didn't care. It wasn't about the money. And I got inside. And once I got inside the establishment, or one of them, and saw what it was, it's not that people were purposely not telling the whole story. Some people, that wasn't their expertise. And some people educated me on rock, and which wasn't my expertise at that time. Some people educated me on pop, which wasn't my expertise, and I learned how to listen to it differently, and I learned how to listen to rock and roll differently. And I started studying rock and roll and its legacy and its history, and I started opening my mind and making parallels to hip-hop and its legacy and history, same with pop. The art of pop, if you will. And it just made me a more well-rounded individual, and it allowed me to open my ears and my palette for music. And then it allowed me to cover hip-hop in a way that was so thorough that some of the early programming we were doing, we did a program called Hard Rhymes, Big Stakes, and it was about rappers who rapped about the drug trade or criminal acts, and how these rappers now were being pulled into the judicial system and their lyrics were being used against them. Right. We did a series called All Eyes On, where I would sit down one-on-one with someone like 50 Cent before people even knew who he was, or Jay-Z, or or Kanye, before people even knew who he was, and just kind of do the type of interview that's so thorough, even if you don't know who they are, you're interested in what they have to say and what they're gonna do. Or My Block, which was a series that went into different neighborhoods, and you see a lot of people doing that now. But we were going into Miami, Chicago. Game took me to Long Beach, and we went on some blood neighborhood, and I was surrounded by dudes who all had their guns out with the cameras in front of us. I'm doing, yo, what's up? This is Sway, Long Beach with Game, and I'm like, these Bloods got, I ain't no, I'm from Oakland. We didn't have Bloods and Crips when I was growing up, but he took me in the neighborhood, and I kind of understood the culture of it, and we were able to paint the real picture. And then since then, I expanded to politics. I wanted to learn politics because I felt disenfranchised and really wasn't about voting. And I'm on this platform, so I want to see what it's all about. So I started doing Rock the Vote with MTV. And then we had our 20 Million Loud campaign that really helped put President Obama in office,
Absolutely.
registering 20 million voters. And I went on the road with Senator McCain and, for 3 or 4 days, interviewed him about his policy. I went on the road with Senator Clinton at that time, Hillary, interviewed her about her policy. Senator Obama, before he was president, interviewed him about his policy. John Edwards, before his scandal, interviewed him about his policy, and then when the president, and then got a chance to interview the president just before he was nominated president, and then from there had the opportunity to interview him 4 more times as president, including from the White House live on TV. Live is scary, and,
Sure.
And from the Blue Room of the White House. And if that ain't being inside the establishment,
Sir.
like KRS-One said, then what is?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Interviewing Wayne when he got out of his jail sentence, just doing things that I felt were meaningful, going to Agenda 6 marches,
Yes.
to protest them putting these boys in jail. There was racial inequality in the South. Going to Haiti and covering the big earthquake, passing out bags of rice and covering it from an inside perspective, targeted towards a younger demographic. When Hurricane Katrina hit, going into the Dome in New Orleans and seeing dead bodies on the field. This was before Oprah or Red Cross got in there doing coverage and helping young people find their families and being able to document it to give a real account of what was going on in that region. All of these things, it's been beautiful during the VMAs, red carpets, and the movie awards, red carpets. But, the most meaningful things I've been able to do, really kind of was that lucid moment that KRS-One gave me, put me in position to get it done. And it was up to me to figure it out, how to do it properly and correctly, and so that young journalists coming up understand that you could be whatever you want to be. You could reach however heights you want to reach and do it with integrity. Nowadays, people are balancing that fight, good and evil in journalism. Like, most of the journalism we have now is dark and negative, and I fight every day with this morning show, to create a balance, and then my team members, we all kind of get it, and all of this really came from that moment. So that was the advice that KRS-One gave me that sticks out.
Wow. That was much better answer than I ever could have hoped that you were going to give to that question.
Getting the real me.
Skyhook.
I told Tech brought you here. Tech says it. I can't. He'll know if I'm bullshitting. He'll go, he's bullshitting you. He's a master bullshitter.
And we're gonna get Tech too. So
get Tech.
There'll be just as many good stories on that side.
He's gonna tell you great stories.
Oh yeah.
King Tech has the best memory.
Yes.
And he doesn't forget. He's the most loyal dude I ever met. Most committed guy to integrity and ethics and work ethics, and
yes.
Him and I have never, beyond this business, that's my brother. We will always be swaying Tech. That's crazy.
I agree.
Yeah, so we'll be in old folks' home,
like together,
doing the wake up show,
like the guy version of the Golden Girls used to.
Exactly. The guy girl.
Yeah.